Hello everyone. So let's begin the new discussion now, and this is the slide which you can see here where we are keeping both the engines side by side just to show you how many changes has happened between a RTA and RT-Flex engine. It is quite a big change has happened in this version, which is a completely new platform, I should say, as compared to RTA engine. As you can see, the changes in components. Here we had variable exhaust closing devices, that was a different mechanism given here, and in this engines most components were mechanically actuated or electromechanically had actuated, or hydraulic mechanical actuation were there. As you can see, the first big change here is in this engine is called camshaftless engine. That was the first main changes happened, because in a mechanical engine all the actuations and the timing were controlled by the camshaft and cam, and here this is completely obsolete part here, and here all this mechanism which was controlled in a RTA engine through cam and camshaft is now controlled electronically. So that is the major change has happened, and because of this major change, all these gears which was made to connect the camshaft and crankshaft, this became obsolete now. This reduced the weight of the engine drastically, and the computation of timing and actuation of fuel pump and exhaust valve became more refined now as compared to a mechanical system which was used in RTA engine by using camshaft and cam. So that is the first major change which came into the RT-Flex engine. Here again the individual fuel pumps are not there in this engine, because this is going to have a common rail concept. So there is no individual fuel pump in RT-Flex engine as compared to RTA engine, where you have fuel pump for each engine to start the injection, fuel injection. Here there is fuel supply unit and not individual fuel pumps for individual unit. Again, there is no reversing servo motor here for changing the direction of rotation of the engine. Again, this is done electronically. This is another major big change has happened, that how the engine is reversing, where here the timing was all controlled by the camshaft. Here the timing is all controlled by the electronic control module, which we will discuss in due course. Again, there is no fuel linkage here because we don't have individual fuel pump. So there is no fuel linkages here, we have only supply unit. The VIT and fuel quality settings, all these things got incorporated into electronic control. So there is no mechanical VIT setting or FQS setting in this kind of engine. Another major change is starting of the engine, which was used by having a mechanical start air distributor in a RTA engine, which is going to supply the pilot air to the individual starting cylinder air starting valve. In this engine, this is again done by electronic control. So this became much more simplified with lesser and lesser component, and that is why the RT-Flex engine is having much more superior power to weight ratio as compared to RTA engine.
A message for every marine engineer out there. First time joining and scared of what will happen on board? Our Combat Achiever packages show real shipboard videos before you step on, so you join with confidence. Junior engineer still repeating those basic mistakes? Our basic troubleshooting package helps you avoid the same errors we all made on board ship. Fourth engineer, go in depth into purifiers and compressors. Izzat nahi kamani kya? Third engineer, learn auxiliary engine overhauling and boiler testing step by step. To all second engineers and chief engineers and ETOs, hydraulics, maneuvering, electrical circuit diagrams, PLC, PID, reefer and AC system. Guys, troubleshooting should be your forte. अगर जहाज पे इज्जत अपने juniors की चाहिए, तो troubleshooting आनी चाहिए. 24 packages, many more coming soon. 2-year subscription. That's M&D Flex, not a course, but a technical lifeline you need on ship. Check out our free trial videos. Link is in description box.
So these are the major changes, as you can see in this slide, that how this engine looks more simple as compared to a Silver RTA engine. Here we are having many components which is missing: the major, the drive gear and the camshaft, that is the major component. Reversing servo motor is missing, fuel linkage, then VIT FQS devices, which was mechanical again in RTA engine, which is missing here. The starting air distributor is again not present in this engine, which is again controlled electronically. So these are just an overview about how this two engine looks like. When you go in front of the engine or near the engine, how you can make out that which components are missing in this RT-Flex engine. Just to summarize, here the comparison of different components between RTA and RT-Flex, as we have shown earlier. As you can see that fuel oil pressure is developed by a jerk type of fuel pump in RTA engine, as we have seen in earlier mechanical engines also, that we have individual fuel pump to generate the fuel injection pressure, which is going to open the fuel injector for fuel injection. Here there is no individual fuel injection pump, and we have a fuel supply unit which is connected to a common rail at 1000 bar, and by electronic control the fuel supply will be introduced to the individual injectors, and that is how the injection takes place in RTA engine. So the first major difference between RTA and RT-Flex, how the fuel comes into the cylinder. In RTA engine, fuel pump and fuel injector combination is going to activate the fuel injection, whereas in RT-Flex engine, the rail pressure and electronic actuation is going to introduce fuel into the RT-Flex engine. That is the first major difference. Then the fuel oil pressure which is coming into RTA engine by the fuel oil circulating pump usually supplied at 7 to 8 bar, whereas here in RT-Flex engine the supply pressure near to the engine comes through a high pressure fuel rail which is maintained at 1000 bar by the fuel supply system. So this is another major difference between these two engines, that how the fuel oil is coming near to the engine. Thereafter, the difference of RTA and RT-Flex in timing the injection. The timing control in a mechanical engine is very simple since the beginning of marine diesel engine, where fuel cam and the camshaft. Whereas in electronic engine, this is another major change has happened. The timing of injection is now controlled electronically. So with this, we are going to have much more refined and precise injection control as compared to RTA engine. And as you have more precise injection control, you will have much more efficient engine as compared to the previous version. Then the fourth one, developing pressure for exhaust valve actuation. How the exhaust valve is going to open by hydraulic pressure. So here we were having one actuator, exhaust actuator for individual exhaust valve, that is for per unit we have separate actuator, whereas in this engine there is no separate actuator again. The servo pump which is mounted next to the flywheel side is going to generate 200 to 250 bar pressure supplied on a common rail, and this rail is going to connect to individual exhaust valve hydraulic pipe, and this is controlled electronically. So again, the actuation of exhaust valve is not by a separate actuator but through a common rail and through electronic control modes. That is how the exhaust valve opening is controlled in RT-Flex engine. Another difference, how the servo oil or system oil pressure comes near to the exhaust valve actuator or the supply unit. In this case, in RTA engine it is coming at low pressure. Whatever the system oil pump is going to supply 2 to 3 bar, whereas in RT-Flex engine it is high pressure servo rail system which is pressurized 200 to 250 bar. That is another major change between RTA and RT-Flex. Timing, as we mentioned earlier, the exhaust valve actuator is going to time by the cam which is mounted on the camshaft, whereas in RT-Flex engine the timing of exhaust valve actuation is done electronically through VEX controller, and there is a module which called VCU, valve control unit. That is the important change has happened in RT-Flex engine. Similarly, on the governor there is an actuator here which is going to control the fuel injection quantity, controlled by the governor, electronic governor in RTA engine, whereas in this engine we are having the common rail pressure and the fuel injection duration, timing, all controlled by the VEX controller. So here the VEX controller is doing the job which a governor was doing in case of RTA engine, which is going to control the quantity of the fuel. Then the electronic governor, which is part of the RT-Flex engine, here in RTA engine releasing the fuel injection pump position to the actuator, which was the role of the governor, which was done by the fuel mechanism, that is the crank mechanism. What we have the fuel linkages. In this case the releasing of the fuel command is initiated by the VEX controller, which is going to activate the start of injection and how long the injection will be maintained. Fuel injection quantity control, governor and the fuel pump combination is doing in RT-Flex engine, whereas in RT-Flex engine it is all VEX and ICU, which is injection control unit, which is doing the entire job which was done earlier by the electro-hydraulic governor and the fuel pump in a RTA engine. So these are the major changes between RTA and RT-Flex, which is changing the whole concept how a marine diesel engine used to work earlier, and now everything is going to be controlled electronically through the software, where the timing and actuations are more precise, and that is why these engines are more efficient and having superior power to weight ratio as compared to the previous version. Moving to the next system or difference in the RTA and RT-Flex, that how the engine is going to start on air. As we all know that in RTA engine this is achieved by having a start air distributor which is going to control the timing of pilot air in a head or a stern direction, and that is how the engine starts rotating. Whereas in RT-Flex engine this is all done by the VEX controller. Similarly, reversing of the engine, since these are reversible engine, reversing of the engine was also accomplished by the cam, a different set of cam which was going to give a different way the start air and the fuel injection is going to happen in order. Whereas in RT-Flex engine this is all done by the VEX controller, so this is much more simplified option in this case. Alarm monitoring system almost same, both are having external modules which is by the third party. Similarly, the emergency control by mechanic shaft and cam acting on pneumatic valves of the engine control, which is going to actually put the fuel pump in off mode so that the fuel injection will be cut off. And here this is also going to be done in a similar way. The remote control system is going to activate a signal whereby the rail pressure will be drained, and that is how the injection will be disabled. That is how the emergency control is working in a RT-Flex engine. Load signal, here remote control load signal from angle transmitter on the intermediate shaft, whereas here it is all by the VEX controller which is getting a signal from remote control, and VEX controller is going to send a command so that the load will be changed, and that is how the engine load signal will be modulated. Then VIT and variable exhaust closing function is provided by the remote control system. Here this is variable exhaust opening is also included apart from variable exhaust closing, and all these functions are software controlled by the VEX controller. Similarly, wiring from the engine to external, we have individual cable which is a hardwire system we should call, whereas in RT-Flex engine this is bus system which is serial digital communication system we are using in RT-Flex engine. So these are major changes in control mechanism between a RTA engine and RT-Flex engine. So we have discussed till now about these major changes in different components between RTA and RT-Flex, and I hope by now you will have a fair idea that how these two engines are different in their working, component and control. Thank you very much.